So what you're not going to know from this video is that I recorded earlier about 2 hours ago. Unfortunately for me, when I pressed the go live button on YouTube, I had accidentally switched my focus off the tab and it suspended everything I was doing. So I'm re-recording something that I had done 2 hours earlier. So hopefully this time around, it's actually going to make sense. This is a bonus video that I'm doing before we get into the meat of the matter with preparing for a global virtual design sprint and how I arrange and propose the teams that everyone is going to gather and assemble into before we get started. Now, I'll be sharing my screen in a minute, but what I've attempted to do was to take a very, I would say, manual, somewhat boring process and try to explain my thinking rationale around how I go about assembling teams. So hopefully this is going to make sense. If you have any questions or if you're not quite sure what I'm talking about, then please do post up in the comments or leave some sort of information. At least some sort of information. You can tell it's late. Just post some comments if you have any questions and I'll get right into it. So give me 1 second while I share my screen and we shall get into this. Right. So what you're seeing here is the registration information that normally comes in for a global virtual design sprint. There are things like a person's name, where they're located, their LinkedIn profile, and so on. So when I'm assembling teams, one of the things I need to do is figure out what kind of roles people want. And this is a straight export from Typeform, where it exports straight into this this Google Sheets, or this Sheets, Google Sheet. Well, yeah, but basically it's going into Sheets. And what Typeform unfortunately does is it takes all the information around the roles that people want and condenses it down to a single column. So it looks nice, but the problem is for matching teams, I need these in their own separate columns. So typically what I need to do is I have to go into Typeform and actually go into the responses and download everything you see here, like literally download everything and put it into its own kind of spreadsheet. So I think when I do that, it's over here. Yeah. So I have to export in Typeform to a CSV file, and then it gives me all this information. It's kind of corrected a bit. But what it does do is puts all of those roles into their own columns, which is yay, because now I can actually just copy and paste this back into the Sheets spreadsheet that I was working with. Now, I had to do a little bit of modification before the recording where there were a couple of lines where people had gone through the registration process, but had not completed it, and they wanted more time to think about it. So to have everything line up perfectly with the names that are in the spreadsheet here, I needed to be able to make sure that they were completely where they were supposed to. And the end result is this. And let me see if I can get this right. I'm going to expand it out here. Heads up, you shouldn't change this. Well, I'm going to. It looks like this. So now this particular question, I'm going to hide this since I no longer need it, is now this, where I know what people are looking to get involved with in terms of advisor, facilitator, and so on. Although it looks kind of convoluted. Let me separate it again here and just bring this over. That should be enough. Yep. So now I know who wants to be an advisor, who wants to be a facilitator, and kind of have these as options for how people kind of engage in the event. So that's the first part. The second is I need to know when they're going to be available to do their main sprint, which is going to be out in the week of October 19th. The Global Virtual Design Sprint is a full month, but the third week in particular is the most important because that's when people are actually going to be engaged as a team doing the work of a virtual design sprint. So what I've done is ask people to fill out this, which is a doodle. A doodle is basically a poll tool or survey tool that in this instance asks for different people's availability. So as you can see here, we got a lot of people that have indicated when they're going to be available. There's some common times that are there. This is all fine and well, but what I usually need is availability from as many people as possible and to understand when they're going to be able to do a sprint. Now, some people like Marie, take for instance, are only going to be available one day or not on Monday, but they're available on Tuesday, Wednesday. So Monday's out for them. That'll be something I'll have to take into account when I'm assembling teams. But the one thing I do have to do for everyone here is I have to take all of this information that they've given me about their availability, and I have to bring it into this particular spreadsheet. How do I do that? Well, in Doodle, I have to go in and go back up to the top here, and there's a more. Go down and hit Export to Excel, and it takes all this data and puts it into an Excel spreadsheet, which should look like this. So now it's in a kind of a spreadsheet form. I have to literally take the times and all the names here in terms of like their availability, and I need to put it into that page. And the only way I really know how to do it cleanly is to copy and paste and actually go into each name and find their match in this sheet spreadsheet here. So what that looks like, and I only did about 4 values before I came on. So let's open this up. Is that if I find a match for Alex Bach, for example, up here in the second row, and I know that he's got he's someone that in that spreadsheet, I think it's right there, that's him. He's already filled out his availability. I put that in the Excel file. And I do this with enough people, and I can even show you. So I'm going to go back to this, and it looks like, let's take Abhinav here. I'm going to go ahead and highlight him. I'm going to copy him, go back into the Excel spreadsheet, look for Abhinav, and there he is. I'll just basically go all the way across until I get to the times here and put his name in, and now I've got his particular availability. So I think I'll do one more just to make sure I've got 6 instead of 5. Let's do Iva. Pretty sure that I can find her. And we'll go down to, where is she? There she is. Go all the way down. And I'll put it right here. So as I start building out all of the availability for everybody, what I'm eventually going to do is I'm going to condense it down so that I understand when people are available at what times, and then pair them against the roles that they've chosen. So here, I have a little filter put on this. I'm going to take out all the blanks. So that should eliminate pretty much everyone I have put a schedule for. I go over here and I go, I'm trying to look for anywhere from 4 to 8 matches of people. And usually I want to start on Monday because there's usually a good chance that they put in the same times every single day of the week. So let's say my 4 could potentially be like these 4 right here, or it could be these 4 right here. If I look back over where I'm at, between all of these folks, we have a lot of co-facilitators. I look for kind of outliers, people that only have chosen one role that I've kind of centered on as like kind of a linchpin for a team. So if I'm going to build around Lee Duncan, he's only want to be an advisor. Let's see. I think it would be good to kind of go after the designer co-facilitator one here, which is Abhinav. Let's see if Lee and Abhinav had some connection here. And I should probably, let me anchor this one right there. Let's see, view, freeze, 1 column. There we go. No, it didn't freeze. Darn it. Maybe I should just basically go view, freeze, up to current column, G. Hey, there we go. So if I'm looking here, it looks like Lee has some time and Abhinav has some time. So it looks like this particular slide here seems to be pretty good, but it's only 1 hour, so I'll have to kind of work with that. But so if I'm thinking of, if I just had 1 hour, which it's not, but I'd be looking at Lee and Abhinav, then I have Florian and Alexander are the other 2. Go back to where they are. Florian looks like he's looking to facilitate or co-facilitate. And Alexander is about the same thing. He's also in user research. Now, knowing Alex, he's definitely going to want to facilitate, probably would want Florian to co-facilitate because he's pretty good at giving perspective. So there I have like the beginnings of a 4-person team between Lee, Florian, Alex, and Abhinav. And that would be like the starting point for a team that could be built around the idea that they're available around this time, with Abhinav maybe like not available at this particular time. But again, I'm looking for at least 4, but in 2-hour blocks all throughout the week. So I'd be going through every single day to see what I can find. And eventually that all boils down to creating something called a master board within the Global Virtual Design Sprint. And let me show you the one that we did last time. So this is the one from May. And as you can see here, we had our teams that were anywhere from 8 to 12 people. And we're actually condensing this down to 4 to 8 people this time around. So it's not too crazy in terms of kind of the facilitators wrangling so many people into one place. But what you'll eventually see are these kind of graphical representations of people and the roles that they are proposed to play. So it's going to align with what they said in registration. But what I'm attempting to do is to give them an early advance kind of look and see what seems to make sense. Now, once people get in view of these particular teams as we kind of branch them out, let's say that Yasir is not really happy with working with Iva for whatever reason, because he's temperamental. That's not true. But if he decided to before October want to change teams, and this one seemed to have the right kind of schedule, then he could basically drag himself over to like this team if it was available and put himself here. Now, the difference with Yasir couldn't necessarily just do that. Down here is going to be some proposed schedules for these teams based on what they told me and their availability. And this is both in Central and European time. And as part of the GVDS, normally we have people observe, but I think we're going to curb that a bit just because people got a little bit distracted by observers kind of either pitching in or kind of hanging out. So basically, when the teams are assembled, they'll have their proposed schedule as well as like a makeup of who proposed to be, who would ideally be on that team if we could. So that's it. And then since we only have about 40 signups this time around, which is fantastic, it's not going to take me more than a weekend to get it done. If it was 150 like this one, like GVDS 4 was massive. It had to do with the pandemic too. This one was just over the top busy. I did not expect this many people to join as it is. And it was quite an undertaking, but it was great to kind of not only have people choose their challenges, but also to get as many teams, as many mixes that we did for GVDS 4. So GVDS 5 is going to be much lighter, but it's going to be much more structured, which is always a good thing. So that's it. That's basically how I assemble teams. I start with the actual raw data from the signups. I cross-reference that with the type form to basically get that granular information about the roles. I go into Doodle to find out what everyone's availability is, and I port that into this mix here so I can kind of see visually where people are available and then start to build teams from there. And then finally, I put everything on the master board, and that's down here in terms of the teams that are going to be that particular week. That's what you'll be seeing manifest on a different board for GVDS 5. It's going to be probably a little bit lighter, and then we can take it away from there. So thanks for watching. Sorry for all the delay. That was my fault for not recording properly. And yeah, so the next ones that are coming up are going to be all about preparing for your sprint or for your particular virtual sprint and what to kind of get in order, kind of what to kind of prepare for, and all of the routines that go into that. We'll also hopefully have some people beyond me, beyond being a chatty Kathy. No offense to Kathy's everywhere. To kind of co-author these videos so that we're going to get perspective not only from me but from other people and how it's done. So look forward to that. Hope you're enjoying your weekend. Thanks for staying up late or early to watch this, and hope this finds you well. Okay, take care. Talk to you later.